Well, welcome everyone. Josh's Severe Weather. Hope you had a great weekend. This is the Monday evening update here for what is going to be a pretty active week, especially towards the end of this week and the upcoming weekend. We're starting to begin our peak storm season here across the central and eastern states, in particular the southeast. And tornadoes look like they are going to be on the increase as we get into the end of this week and over the weekend. We've got a series of storm systems to track. And right now, we're starting to see just an increase in the trend in the direction we don't want to see it in. And that is for the potential for a more substantial severe weather outbreak as we get into later on Friday and into the weekend, Saturday, and possibly into Sunday as well. I'm going to share my screen with you and walk you through everything here as we get started with our model forecast first, showing where storm systems are. One storm moving off the southeast coast, another one moving into California that will merge with a northern track system here. And this is going to be moving across the south central parts of the country during the middle of this week and then weakening. Could produce a little bit of severe weather with it in the southern plains late Wednesday into Thursday. However, the next system that is to follow, that's not even on the map yet, this is the one that is expected to turn into a rapidly intensifying bomb cyclone. And what I mean by bomb cyclone is the pressure is going to drop very substantially here by the order of 20 to 30 millibars in just a day, going from about 990 millibars down below 970 potentially by the time we get to Friday night. This could be one of our strongest storms pressure wise on record for the month of March. It could be a record breaking storm system. We'll have to wait and see upon on that. But regardless of whether or not it breaks the record, that doesn't matter. What I'm more concerned with is the fact that this is going to produce a ton of wind with it. It is going to draw moisture up from the Gulf of America and create an environment that is good for heavy rainfall. It's also going to set up an environment for tornadoes and damaging winds as it tracks slowly to the east in two pieces here, by the way. The first piece Friday night, the second piece later Saturday into Saturday night. And then finally, the system leaves the picture here by the time we get to Sunday afternoon and Sunday night, heading into eastern Canada with quieter weather to follow. Here's a look at our satellite image, the wide view right now. You see the two main features on the map. Southeastern storm here. It's cloudy, it's wet, it's cool across the southeast. We do have some storms moving through the Florida Peninsula. Some severe weather is still possible here into this evening. We did have a tornado reported earlier in the Lake Mary area to the north of Orlando earlier in the morning. Our next storm system is spinning off the California coast. That's going to draw moisture up from the Pacific Ocean and the Gulf of California and will bring a very heavy snowfall to the ski areas of California over the next few days. We could see as much as 4 or 5 feet of snow up above 4,000 feet and strong wind as well. But until that system moves in, it's actually pretty warm here across the country. The center of the country is the warmest right now, with the exception of the Miami area, which is about to get a cool down here with our front. But we see a big gradient in temperatures here from 70s and 80s in the Dakotas and the Central Plains to 20s up near the Canadian border. Looks like the warm air is going to win out, but there will be an area where it does not warm up. Unfortunately, winter continues on a little bit longer here in parts of North Dakota and Minnesota. This warmth continues to be with us through the week, and as moisture increases out of the Gulf here, we're going to have a stronger jet stream that moves in. That is going to send that warm air farther to the north, farther to the east, and then it will come to an abrupt end as we get on into the weekend and beyond into early next week. Now, very unusual to see this, but 80 degrees in Omaha and 47 in Augusta, Georgia. This is because it's cloudy and wet here as a cold core system moves through. Now, that's going to bring some nasty weather into the Outer Banks this evening, and then we'll head off the coast tomorrow. We will warm back up after that for the second half of this week, and then our next storm marches in from the west. Here's a look at that temperature forecast for you all to see. These are high temperatures tomorrow, 80s in Texas, 90s near the border with Mexico. Pretty mild across the rest of the southeast here. In fact, up to 70 in Raleigh again tomorrow. And we'll be enjoying 60s into parts of the Hudson River Valley and interior portions of New England. Here's the cold. So you see where our front is stacked up here. And it will be turning cooler across the Intermountain West as well with our next storm moving in. Now, here's a look at Wednesday. And you can see the heat continues to build northward as we get into the triple digits again in parts of deep South Texas. 102 to 103 will be the highs. It cools down on the west coast here. It does cool off somewhat here across the Great Lakes, and we are going to have a backdoor cold front that cools us back down here starting on Wednesday in the Northeast and on the coast of the Mid-Atlantic. So we go from 60s down into the 40s and low 50s for the day on Wednesday. Here's a look at Thursday's highs. You can see it's still going to be chilly in New England. In fact, we might see a little bit of light snow up in here. 40s across southern New England and New York City area and Cape May, New Jersey. Inland, though, we start to bounce back into the 50s and 60s. The heat builds, though, across the south central states. We're well into the 90s to maybe 100 in South Texas. We see 70s all the way up into South Dakota here. And even Denver, Colorado is going to be flirting with 70 degrees on Thursday, just in time, though, for a massive cool down coming on Friday and into Friday night. Look at this, 105 degrees in McAllen, Texas on Friday. That will probably be one of our hottest March days on record. And the winds are going to crank up as well, creating some very hazardous travel here with dust again and high fire danger. It's mild, though, and turning warmer across much of the Northeast for Friday. Here's a look at Saturday's high temperatures, and we go from the 60s and 70s down into the 30s and 40s on the Front Range. We drop into the 30s and 40s, even colder. And it will probably end up colder than this, I would think. This is a model average. This is a mean of all of our ensemble possible solutions here. But I would expect the temperatures during the day could end up quite a bit colder than this to the backside of our storm system here in the Dakotas and into eastern Colorado and maybe Kansas as well. As we head into the day on Sunday, you will see it's going to be mild on the East Coast. We'll probably crack 70 around D.C. and maybe Philly as well. We'll be into the 60s in Albany, Boston, Syracuse, Rochester, and Buffalo. 60s in Detroit as well here for Sunday, but the cold lurks as we turn much chillier behind our storm system here on Sunday. And then finally, it looks like a cooler day on Monday over the eastern part of the country. 40s around the Great Lakes and mountains, 50s farther to the east, 60s down into the southeast as we return to more seasonal temperatures for this time of the year. Here's a look at our hazards map, and this shows where we have a high fire danger in the areas in pink across the central United States. The other pink indicates winter storm warnings for the mountains of California, winter weather advisories as well in Oregon and Washington, and a winter storm watch in effect for portions of central Nevada. We do have a flood watch in effect for the greater Los Angeles area. The LA basin is going to see some heavy rain as this next storm piles its way inland here. Here's a look at the NAM model for the southeast as we transition over. And you can see where our low pressure system is going to be this evening, moving slowly away from the coast and strengthening. It's going to be wet and windy here tonight over the coasts of the Carolinas. Our threat for severe weather in South Florida, though, is going to come to an end. We'll still see some storms moving through the northwest Bahamas, and then eventually that will fade as it moves eastward. This system will not gain any kind of tropical or subtropical characteristics. Regardless of what you may be seeing online, that will not be the case. Instead, we just have a typical late season low pressure system that spins and moves eastward over the Gulf Stream, and then quieter weather follows for Tuesday and especially on Wednesday. I'm going to take you back to the northeast here real quick, and we'll just do this region by region. So if you don't feel like you have to see it all, but certainly skip around if you need to. In the Northeast, it is chilly out there. We are going to warm back up in a couple of days, but we have a clipper system which moves in on Tuesday night. We are going to see rain changing over to snow around the St. Lawrence Valley, some showers moving into the interior Northeast for Tuesday evening, as well as the Maritimes region of Canada. And then it's chillier with mountain snow here for Wednesday. There's another piece of energy we got to watch behind it that may try to bring some light snow up and over into parts of New England, but no snow expected in the big cities at this time. All right, we're going to turn your attention here to the south central states. And you can see here, pretty quiet over the next few days. We will see moisture returning gradually here on Wednesday ahead of our next storm. Maybe some cloud cover, some fog, some light drizzle here during the day Wednesday. We'll start to see more storms popping up here Wednesday night. Now, my NAM model doesn't go out that far, but tomorrow we're going to break that down a little bit more for you. And then finally, I want to show you the western United States here. And I apologize if I missed anybody. We can't get everywhere all the time, but take a look at this storm moving into California. We're going to see heavy rain beginning during the overnight hours and spreading inland in the morning tomorrow around LA and San Diego. A wet morning commute expected. And then as that low continues to move inland, we may see even a few thunderstorms near Tijuana and San Diego here for Tuesday afternoon and Tuesday evening. A second push comes into the Pac Northwest. These two systems try to merge here on Wednesday. Before they do so, we are going to see snow in the mountains, and it will turn very heavy on Wednesday morning. Wednesday afternoon travel is going to become impossible here across the Sierra Nevada. More rain is going to move in to California from the coast. I wouldn't be shocked if we had some stronger wind gusts and maybe even an isolated severe storm or even a tornado out of this, as it will be very unstable for Wednesday afternoon. But unfortunately, it doesn't stop there. If you look ahead here, especially at the end of this week and into the weekend. We are off the charts here with the potential for supercell severe weather storms here. We're up to 30 here on this chart, indicating that conditions are expected to be primed for supercell type storms, which will produce hail. They'll produce damaging winds. And I do think at this point, we do have to be concerned with a stronger tornado or two down south as we get into Saturday and into Saturday night. Let's take a look here first at the first threat. This is going to be Wednesday night primarily, and it does include DFW and over into the Arklatex region, even into the Mississippi Delta region late at night. But then that threat kind of winds down here as we get into the day on Thursday. You can see as I take you to the southeast, the Storm Prediction Center is not super excited about what's left over at that point. Here's a look at the European model, which shows how this storm is going to evolve. And you will see, let me back it up here a little bit. Clicking away here. But we are going to see some storms that move in here Wednesday night, popping up around Arkansas. There's a bit of an upper level feature to watch here. And then moving towards the Mississippi River here late at night, Wednesday night, and into the early part of Thursday. It's not a massive system at this point, but it does have severe weather potential with it. And then we're expecting it to weaken as we get into Thursday and Thursday night. Now, the next storm system is the one of greater concern here. And we're going to set this into motion here so you all can kind of see how this plays out. So we see the storm emerging from the Rocky Mountains here in the morning on Friday, deepening quickly. Winds are really going to ramp up, especially on the southwest side of this low. And then we're going to see storms breaking out very late in the afternoon on Friday, basically from northeast Texas all the way up into Iowa and possibly even eastern portions of Nebraska and southern Minnesota. The storm system deepens. It plows very quickly eastward, moves through Chicago and Milwaukee overnight. We do have a nocturnal threat for severe weather at night here for Friday night, late at night, into places like western Kentucky and Tennessee, northern Mississippi, and eventually northern Alabama. But it doesn't stop there, unfortunately. We are going to see a second area forming down in here, a second disturbance, which follows the first one, taps into the Gulf of America here, brings more moisture north. And with the wind field expected to expand and deepen some, this is certainly a setup we need to be very mindful of here for Saturday afternoon and Saturday night, possibly even Saturday morning in Louisiana, but especially in the afternoon and at night. And this whole system does make its way northeastward here. And I would not be shocked if Sunday we're talking about some strong winds all the way up into the mid-Atlantic, possibly even into New York State before this front rolls through here on Sunday night and then off the coast by Monday. Here's a look at the upper level pattern and what we're talking about. So the main feature lifts out Friday night into the Great Lakes. Behind it, we have a second feature. And up at 500 millibars, we see the winds going over 100 knots from the first feature, but the second feature gets strong as well. And this is going to be a problem here down south. You see this big bump that comes through Texas here. Well, out ahead of it is where things are going to become very unstable here. And you can see wind fields expanding on Saturday afternoon and into Saturday evening. So a 1-2 punch is coming for places like Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, and Louisiana here, with the first one coming late Friday night and the second one coming later on Saturday into Saturday night. And then that is going to make its way to the eastern seaboard on Sunday. And you can see the wind field continues to strengthen. And we see very fast wind flow moving from the Gulf of America all the way up into western New York and even into eastern Canada here during the day on Sunday. And as we drop down a level here, you can see how the winds at 700 millibars get very intense here with over 75 knot winds expected. So we have this two-piece system here. Here's piece number one. This is Friday night. And it looks like it could be pretty intense in here. And then here's the second piece coming on Saturday. And you can see the winds start to pick up again aloft here in Louisiana, Mississippi. Now, is it going to look exactly like what today's European is showing? Probably not. But we do see the signs here of an increase in a trend towards this second wave of severe weather that's likely going to follow the first wave here. And you can see here, low-level jet picks up here in the evening, not just at 700 millibars, obviously, but in the lower levels at 850 millibars here. And we see some very intense winds. First, with the Friday afternoon and evening system, right? We've got winds that are approaching 70 miles per hour at 850 millibars. But then as we head into Saturday afternoon, the next push comes right behind it, and our wind field increases in Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama, which means we're going to have more training thunderstorms. We're going to have more rain, potential flash flooding in some of these areas, and then obviously severe weather is going to be a challenge as well. And I forgot to share that tab, so let me take you back here again. My bad. This is Friday night. Major wind flow here at 850 millibars. This could be a pretty significant amount of severe weather. And then as we move it ahead to the following day on Saturday, there's a second piece that crosses the Texas and Louisiana Gulf Coast. And you can see how the wind field increases as this moves up into Mississippi and Alabama Saturday afternoon and Saturday night. Take a look at this. We are looking at 850 millibars, the potential to see 75 knot winds, which means it's going to be ripping and roaring here across East Tennessee here for Saturday night into early Sunday morning. Unfortunately, that area is going to bring this moisture all the way up into the northeast. So Sunday is going to be wet, and Sunday could also have some severe weather across portions of the eastern seaboard. So now the Storm Prediction Center has upped our odds here. 30% chance for severe on Friday and Saturday in two different areas. There's some overlap in Mississippi, but two different areas that are expected. Now, right now, it's still a little bit too uncertain to give you the exact timing and the exact spots that are going to get hit the hardest. This could probably shift a little bit in either direction, and I expect that it will. I also think that down the road here, there is definitely some high ceiling with this. If all the ingredients come together, we're not just talking an enhanced risk. We might be talking moderate risk. I don't want to use the H word yet. I think that's a little bit, it's a little bit too soon to say, but we definitely need to be watching now. So if you have plans this weekend, Friday and Saturday, definitely be monitoring this a lot more closely here as we come into the coming days. Here's a closer look at the area on Friday. And a lot of this will be Friday evening west of the Mississippi and later Friday night east of the Mississippi. It includes much of southeastern Missouri, southern Illinois, western Kentucky, western Tennessee, the Delta region of Mississippi, and a good chunk of central and eastern Arkansas. And this could shift still a little bit to the north or south. It could get to St. Louis. We may see the yellow area expand to Chicago and Madison and maybe Des Moines and maybe even getting close to the Twin Cities and back towards Kansas City. We don't quite know exactly yet where this is going to land, but this is a pretty good idea of where we're expecting it to show up. As we move on into the following day here, day 6, you can see that the threat shifts farther to the south. And this is a pretty area that is no stranger to tornadoes in the middle of March, unfortunately. It includes the Florida parishes of Louisiana, much of Mississippi and Alabama. And I could see how this got expanded north and eastward into Tennessee and western Georgia. We'll have to wait and see exactly how this plays out. But I think Saturday afternoon and Saturday night, we're likely to see some tornado watches down in here. It may be worse. So we need to be mindful of that as well. And if we look at the machine learning forecast, this is the threat for severe weather Friday night into Saturday morning. And it's a pretty significant probability here from Louisiana all the way up into southern Illinois. We definitely have this risk for severe weather. If this starts going pink and purple, then we are going to see an upgrade coming. Right now, the machines aren't exactly showing that exact solution, but some of our ensembles are. This is from Mike Ventrise, and you can see 55% or higher area of severe weather possible and a 70% chance of severe weather around the St. Louis area. Here's a look at Saturday, and the bullseye could be Mississippi and Alabama, but the threat for severe weather expands northward into the Ohio Valley and possibly all the way up into Michigan and southwest Ontario, and later at night into West Virginia and western PA and western New York State. As we head into the following day here on Sunday, the threat for severe weather is still a large region geographically, but it is lessening as this moves closer to the East Coast. The bullseye looks like it's going to be near Fredericksburg, Virginia, but all the Carolinas need to be watching this. Maryland needs to watch this. Eastern and central PA needs to watch it. And even if you're in the Brown, you're not out of the woods for seeing possible severe weather into New England and maybe even into the St. Lawrence Valley here of Canada. Here's a look at the upper level pattern so you can see how quickly this is going to evolve. Here's our first system moving through the southeast. It falls apart. The second system gains intensity here. It becomes negatively tilted. Tries to phase with this northern branch feature, meaning we're going to have some wintry weather here, maybe blizzard conditions as well, Friday night into Saturday. But then here's piece number 3 behind it. And this one's going to send that moisture up into the deep south as we get to Saturday and Saturday night. Take a look at how deep this trough is by the time we get to Sunday. Now, the good news here, it does go to a negative, or from a negatively tilted trough to a positively tilted trough, meaning whatever storm system is moving east on Sunday night and Monday is probably weakening at that point. But it's still going to be an intense storm system. All right. Sorry about that. Snowfall here. We're going to see some snow here across Canada and maybe even the far northern reaches of Michigan over the next 24 hours. Then we could see a little bit across northern New England, but the big blast comes into the west here in a few days and could put down amounts as much as 80 inches here in the Rocky Mountains and in the coastal ranges as well. On the backside of our storm, we could see blizzard conditions with potentially 3 to 6 inches or more of snow in places that may be dealing with severe weather here on Friday afternoon. They may go over to snow here by Saturday night and Sunday morning, but not a particularly cold system. And we don't see a great threat for cold until maybe the middle of next week when it could turn chillier. Here's a look at rainfall potential, and you can see the coast of California is going to get hit with a few inches of rain potentially. But as this system pulls out of California and into the plains, we do see a risk for some pretty significant heavy rainfall over parts of the deep south, perhaps 3 or more inches of rain here this weekend. And eventually into western North Carolina as well, we could see heavy rainfall. And even all the way up to the northeast, there is the potential to see an inch or two of rainfall. But I'd be more concerned about flooding for Alabama, Tennessee, western North Carolina, Kentucky, unfortunately, and northwestern Georgia, and maybe far upstate South Carolina. Here's a look at wind speeds from the European model, and you're going to see gusts that ramp up very quickly Wednesday with our first system, and those gusts could get over 70 miles per hour, but the one behind it looks like it's going to be a lot worse. Much of Oklahoma, Kansas, Colorado, New Mexico, and Texas have the risk of seeing wind gusts over 50 miles per hour, and some areas have the risk of seeing wind gusts in excess of 80 miles per hour. This is going to kick up that fire danger and make it extreme. We are going to see a lot of dust. Do expect travel problems out in this area once again. And as the system moves into the Midwest, we are going to see gusts over 50 miles per hour around the eastern Great Lakes as well. And I don't want to ignore this threat, but I do want to show you in East Tennessee here as we get to Saturday night and into western North Carolina early Sunday morning. There's potential to see wind gusts that may get up close to 100 miles per hour if the storm track holds the way it's looking right now. It'll be windy east of the mountains for sure, but this could create hazardous fire conditions and wind damage and power outages across the Smoky Mountain range and in some of the nearby elevational areas as well. So we definitely need to be concerned with that. We're going to see high winds in parts of the Northeast, especially around Lake Erie and Lake Ontario. So this is going to be a big blast of strong winds with it, and that will produce dangerous fire conditions through tonight over the Dakotas. And then as we move this along into tomorrow, that area goes away, but we have critical fire danger in parts of the desert Southwest. And unfortunately, that area gets worse as we get into the day on Wednesday. Here's a look at Thursday, Southwest Texas. Friday, again, the same area has a risk. And then Saturday, look how big this area of fire danger is going to be. It includes this is actually Friday, but it includes almost all of Texas with the exception of South Texas, far eastern Oklahoma. Looks unfortunately like it could be a repeat of what we had to deal with during the middle of next week. And even into Saturday and Sunday, we have to be concerned with this threat for some high fire danger. And again, I realized I wasn't even showing the screen. So real quick, this is tomorrow. This is Wednesday. This is Thursday. And Friday is the day I think we're going to have our biggest issues. And then Saturday, it still could be bad. And then maybe some improvement by the time we get to the day on Sunday. So finally here, I do want to show you what's to come after this week. It's not going to be a completely quiet stretch of weather, but next week should not be as bad. We still could see some severe weather down south, but it is going to be a cooler pattern across the country. And then we're going to start to go back into a busier pattern here at the end of the month of March from the 24th through the 30th. So again, this is week 2. I forgot to share my screen. And here is week 3 when things start ramping up once again. So that is what we're concerned with here in the coming days. Things are unfortunately probably not going to be easy to forecast, even going up into this event on Friday. But do know that as soon as I see things changing, I will let you know. So I appreciate everybody's time. I hope you all have a wonderful Monday evening. I want to leave you with a quick word of encouragement. I want to give all the honor and glory to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Having that Christian faith gives me the ability to serve a purpose in life and to go out in hope and in faith and to spread some joy amongst others. I know it's very easy to get anxious about this kind of weather. The goal here is not really to scare folks. It's to get you prepared for what's to come, but it can be scary. I do understand that. But the good news is that because of what's been given to us, those of us who choose to believe in God and choose to believe in Jesus Christ, God hasn't given us a spirit of fear. 2 Timothy 1:7 says, "For God didn't give us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and self-control." I hope that you understand that and take that to heart, because if you have the power and the love and the self-control, then it turns from a down payment on what may not happen, that is fear, false evidence appearing real, to putting your faith in God and what has already been done for us, and being able to understand that God, in fact, does not want us to live in fear, but wants us to be courageous and to be full of self control and to love one another the way that He has loved us through His Son, Jesus Christ. So if you have any prayer requests, if you're anxious about anything, you're not alone. I'm happy to spend some time here this week in prayer for you. Feel free to list those. Thank you all so much for joining me this afternoon. We'll be back here soon. God bless you.